right, we're having an exciting day today. I think we're going to work on my planer. The last time we had a video, it was sounding pretty loud and was having a little difficulty because of the blades being way dull. This is a WoodTech 20-inch planer, and it is set up. I've removed the guard off the top of this, but you can see that the blades in here are here. They've not been changed in a long time, if ever, and they're extremely dull. So this type of blade, just a straight blade, they're replaceable. You can buy those online or wherever. There's 4 blades in there. They cost approximately 120 bucks every time you wear one out, which is basically as soon as you run it through a couple pieces of wood. I've already gone in and had to do a little research to make sure I attempt to get the right head to replace this with. I'm going to put a helical head on here. We'll show you that in a minute. So we removed the cover that was on the top of this, and we've got our dust collection system pushed back out of the way. And on this side over here, we've removed the cover to expose the chains and gears, because we'll need to do something with that. And those are these covers. The cover for the dust collector is upside down. This one is over the gearbox. When you go to remove this one, you will have a little issue with the back side of it. You'll have to pull these covers off in order to get it off. Remove the 2 bolts that are on here on both sides. I actually got away with just removing 2 of them, and then I was able to slide it off and taking the Allen wrench off of it. So, like I say, I did this to do the research to make sure I got a head that was good. And then I went to the internet, and I found me what I think is going to be a good replacement helical head for this. I've got it still wrapped. I've opened it up and I've got it wrapped because the blades are quite sharp. That's your little blades here. Each one of these is a blade versus the one long one, and each of these can be replaced individually if you do happen to mess something up. And it's going to give a lot of benefits to the planer, because these little blades like this, they actually sit at a slight angle. So when it's running, it's much smoother because of the way it's built and designed, but it also cuts the wood, and it actually slices the wood off because of the slight angle they have on it versus the long knife, which basically chops it off, and you get a lot of wood pull out and this type of thing on your planer. So they say. I've not had one with a helical head, but this is all the benefits they talk about. Like I say, you can replace the blade on this one for, I don't know, it's about $120. You have to make sure the adjustments are all perfect, and for the height of your blades and this type of thing. You run one nail through this by accident or something like that, you can nick it. You throw your blades away, you go spend another 120 bucks on it. So it's kind of a repeat thing. On their helical head, the big advantage here is each one of these heads actually has 4 sides to it. So you can actually take the little hex nut out of it and just spin this head around 90 degrees, and you have a brand new sharp edge. It's a carbide tooth, so if you do get a nick in it, it's pretty quick. And if it gets dull, it's pretty quick. You can actually use all 4 sides of this before you have to replace it. And then you can also buy the new replacement heads for it. I actually did pick up some extras here. I could show you those. Let me set one of them out here a minute. Hold on. All right, so I can show you. This is your heads that you actually replace. And then each one of them has a small marking on it so that you can determine what direction it starts out at and do a clockwise rotation. Kind of keeps you, which one is this? This one here is upside down. So it's just a small little head. And I bought some extras just in case. Well, I bought the helical head. Now, this head is extremely heavy, so we're going to see. So we're going to try to just kind of keep up with what I have to do to get it in and out of here. So what I'm going to start out with is on this back side. We've got the pulley end, so we'll be removing the covers off of this, expose the pulley. And I'm not going to show you every step because it's really difficult to actually work a camera in this fashion. I don't have a camera crew. It would be really nice if I did, but it don't work that way. And pull this off, and you can see the pulleys on here. So we'll be removing those pulleys and the belt and then the pulley off the end of that and getting it off the end of that shaft. That's the first step in the process according to the directions that I printed offline for the directions actually are kind of just a generic directions. But they print out, you can find them online. This particular one come off of the Sheelix site for 15 and 20 inch 4-post thickness planers, and that's the basic concept of mine. So should show us all the directions, and we'll kind of follow along with those and show you as we come into problems. Let's see if we can make it happen. Okay, so we were able to, without doing a whole lot, take the belts and simply roll them off the pulley on this. I did find that if you kind of twist the belt so that the top of the belt is down, it just kind of rolls right on off those pretty easy. And they say there's no reason to adjust or take the tension off the bottom pulley. So we tried that and it seemed to work fine. Got it out and took the keyway out. That was probably the toughest part, getting the key out of it. So the next step on this, they say, is if you hadn't removed the cover top, remove that, get it out of the way. And then we need to remove the handle, which is just taking the nut off. I have already loosened that in order to get the cover off before. So this should pop right on off of here. And we'll set it off to the side. Try to keep all my parts kind of together. And we don't want to lose that key, so I'm hoping we'll set that over here too. That's a little key. We'll set that right here with the hand wheel. Make sure we don't lose that. There's a little sleeve there. I don't think that's going to bother us any. So then the next thing we need to do, and we'll make sure we have everything here, is we've got to remove the spring tensioner. All these chains all have to come off. So we'll make sure we get a good picture of that to make sure we put it back in there the right way. But I think all these are pretty much loosen the tensioners up and should be able to, yes, that's movable. So we should be able to do that. And that'll take that pedal off. And this one here, I'm not really sure if that's just an idle arm or what, but we'll play with that a little bit and see what we have to do to get that off. And then this entire gearbox right here is actually going to be coming off by removing 4 screws up here on the top. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then that will drop that loose is what they're saying. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get all these gears off of here and see how we make out that much. Okay, I took the little idler arm here. It had a little spring. And I've detached it with a pair of pliers out from around that little hook. And now I've taken the 3 bolts here on each of the pulleys. That's a 10 millimeter. And we've loosened all those up. So now all we're going to do is be removing those screws and pull this whole chain assembly off. So, and that's all there's going to be to that. So we'll finish that off and see if we can pull those pulleys right off just like they are. Okay, so we were able to get all the chains and all off. They all pull off all as one big assembly. And I've set them over here with their keys to keep them all together. And then we are supposed to put the hand wheel back on there. And we've got to take blocks of wood and set them under here. And then we're going to raise this up until it just hits the underside of that head so that a little bit of tension, I guess. And that's so that the head doesn't fall on the ground, I reckon, as we pull it on out. So now we're going to go ahead and remove our 4 bolts. And that should allow this entire system to pull on out, they say. So that's what we're going to do, is those 4 next. Okay, we did have to take a small dead blow hammer, and we just popped that a little bit after we had the screws out, gave it a little tug, and here it is, the full system with the gearbox. Everything's still intact, so we should be able to go to the next step, which is removing and draining the oil from the gearbox, because we're going to have to take this apart. There's a small drain plug on the bottom of that. I've had 2 different things. One said we could clean that and put it right back in there because nothing should be wrong with it, but be careful when we break this open because the seal could get broke, so we're going to be careful with that. If we put that into a clean container, they say we can put it right back in, so that's what we're going to shoot for. I guess that's the filling nut on this side of it. So we'll see how we go with that. We're going to give it a shot. Okay, so for lesson number 1, when you're going to remove the plug off the bottom of this, do not turn it upside down to gain access to it, as when you do, it will actually start leaking out of the bolt holes. So I turned it up, the oil went on the ground before I got my bucket. So I've got the bucket here. I'm going to go ahead and collect the rest of it in that. But yeah, it'll come out that bolt hole. So put a bolt back into it. To keep that from happening, probably is going to be what I will do until I get it drained. I don't think we can rely on that to drain everything, so we're going to try to bolt it off, I think. Okay, we drained the oil into the bucket, what's left of it, so not a whole lot of oil. Hope I didn't lose a lot, but we'll have to see. Next it says we need to remove 5 bolts, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's a 5mm hex head wrench to get those out. So we'll go ahead and remove those, and it'll be this chain tensioner also. So we'll kind of remember how that sits in there so that we can put it back together. Okay, I fought with this a little bit more than I think I should have had to. We've got this one out, but the other big gear that's in here shows in the picture that should have all come out too. And this is a 2-speed transmission basically. So you've got your fork here that pushes that in and out, but for some reason that whole thing should have come out with the cover, I thought. But this is where we're going to be working on, is getting that out, I believe, next. So we'll go directions and see what has to happen here. Okay, so what we were supposed to do is inside of here there is a hex nut. So that's a 5mm hex nut, and we're supposed to, I had to take a wrench and kind of busted this loose already. We'll remove that, and with that we should be able to remove that off of the end of it, which leaves us just that behind. So we'll set that to the side and see what is next. Let's see. We've actually got directions here. I am following this somewhat, so we'll have to see what it says. I'll read through it and we'll update when we get there. All right, now that wasn't too bad. We just tapped on the back side of it, and that removes the old head. We set that over here out of the way. As I say, this is the end that was in that housing, and it just really slid right out much easier than I thought it would. So that's the old one, and so now we're going to prepare to put the new one in. And with this head, they recommend bearings being replaced. This particular one actually comes with one bearing on the pulley end of it already, and the other one, they sent a new bearing and a dust cover for that, and that will be placed here in the back side. So we'll take that dust cover out. We got the new one, and then in here we'll remove that. There's a little screw in there. I don't know if anybody can see that one or not. Not a whole lot of light. But we'll remove that screw and push that bearing out, set a new one in its place, and then we'll be ready to start putting it back together. That's it for a minute. Okay, replaced the bearings, got the new dust seal, and we slid this on. Used a little tapping on the thing with a socket just to make sure we didn't do anything, and we're able to drive that on. And they say it should be about flush with the bearing, and it seems to be, so I think we're good there. Tighten that all back down. So I think we're ready to put the little helical gear back on and start seeing if we can get all this case and everything put back together. Let's see how it goes. Okay, we put the cover back on. I think we've got it all in place, kind of got it in place, and then added the 5 screws back and just kind of tightened them up as we could, back and forth, and evenly put the cover on. So I think that's got us. We've tightened up the screw for the oil. I think we'll go ahead and we'll tip that over and add the oil back into it. I don't know what the actual level is, so I'm going to have to go see if I can find the manual to tell me how much oil needs to be in there, because I did lose some on the floor. So I think after this, though, we're ready to start sticking it back in. Like I say, because the bearing already came on this end, otherwise we'd have had to put that bearing on. So a little benefit of this particular head, they send it with it on there. So we'll see what we go next. The oil all replaced. We've pulled the plastic back a little bit. This got several layers of plastic wrap on there. I'm hoping that's enough to protect the blades. and we've removed everything off of that end. So we'll leave that on there to kind of protect those a little bit. We'll see how it starts to go in there. If we need to, we'll add more padding. But we're going to leave the blocks up underneath there to catch it also, and those will be soft to land on. So hopefully it'll slide right on back in. All right, we got it in there, lined it up, used the little blocks and all to kind of do that. We lower her back down, and all the bolts are back in it, so we can do that. And this end's hanging out here, so it's ready to get that pulley put back on. And we'll set all our gears back in place and hook them up. And we are getting close. Okay, we got this pulley all on, got the belts all put back on it. Now we'll put that cover on. We'll cut all this plastic off of the head, put the top cover on, and we should be able to put the guard on the other side. We still have to do that. And then we'll fire it up, see how she does. Okay, we got the cover on this end, and one more look at how this thing sets in there. Now that it's all uncovered, so should be pretty cool. Put the cover on the other side and we'll see what she does. Okay, everything's back together. We're going to go ahead and fire up the shop vac, and we'll run this thing through it and see how much difference it makes with the new blades on it. So we've got it adjusted. It's ready to start cutting some wood, I believe. So let's see what it does. Sounds good so far. So that's about half as noisy as it used to be. Little tiny chips versus the great big ones they had. Oh goodness, it's pulling them off. Filling her up. Much different than the last one. What happens? It goes. Continues to go. I think it'll be fine. Definitely have to let it run a little bit longer. But man, there's hardly any sanding on the need on that one. That is smooth. Oh my, that is nice. Let's try just a little bit more on it. Give it another little crank, and we'll run this one through. Get the other side. See, this side is pretty rough still. I was having a lot of trouble with this thing beating or anything before. That definitely fills up my chute. So much wood going through. That's beautiful. I like it. Looks like we're going to be real happy. We'll let that dust cleaner run for a second more and call it good.